never stop reading the Bible.
Welcome to our Explainer. Today we're diving into the ancient prophetic book of Micah, specifically chapters 4 through 7. We find this incredible story of a society right on the brink of collapse. But, and this is the amazing part, woven right into this warning of total destruction is one of the most powerful visions of hope you'll find anywhere. So let's break it down. So you can see, this isn't just a simple story, right? It's more like a collision of two possible futures. On one side, you've got this really grim picture of judgment, a society basically rotting from the inside out. But then, on the other hand, you get this absolutely breathtaking vision of hope. We're talking a restored people, a victorious king, and ultimately a world at peace. And it's right there, in that tension between total ruin and incredible renewal, that we find the real power of this prophecy.
Okay, so before we can really appreciate the hope, we've got to understand the judgment. Micah doesn't just vaguely mention it, he lays out a super detailed case against his own people. So the big question is, what exactly went so terribly wrong?
The central issue here wasn't that people weren't religious. It was something deeper, a total lack of connection. You could call it a spiritual disconnect. On the surface, everyone was going through the motions, right? They were doing all the ceremonies, all the traditions. But just beneath all that, their society was filled with corruption and injustice. It's like their faith and their actual lives were living in two completely separate worlds.
And the prophecy, it reads almost like a legal indictment, just listing out all these specific charges. And we're not talking about minor slip-ups here. This was a complete betrayal of who they were supposed to be. They were accused of everything from idolatry to just straight-up exploiting their neighbors. Basically, they were living a total double life, where what they did in worship had absolutely no impact on how they did business the next day.
This is where the imagery gets, wow, just incredibly powerful. The prophecy frames this whole thing as a divine lawsuit, so picture a courtroom. God isn't just some disappointed parent. Now, he's the prosecutor, methodically laying out a formal case against the entire nation for breaking the terms of their sacred agreement. So right when everything seems completely hopeless, the whole narrative just pivots on a dime. This single idea that judgment is not the final word is what completely shifts the tone from utter despair to a future nobody saw coming.
And this is where we see that shift from darkness to light. The vision for the future, it's all centered on restoring Mount Zion. Now, for the people hearing this, Zion wasn't just some location on a map. It was the ultimate symbol of God's presence, like where heaven and earth meet. So to hear that it would be restored, that was like hearing that hope itself was going to be rebuilt from the ground up.
And this restoration doesn't happen all at once. It kind of unfolds in 4 clear stages. First, there's a promise that a small, faithful group, a remnant, will actually survive the judgment. Then, their capital, Zion, will be rebuilt. But the vision gets even bigger. It goes global. All the nations will be drawn to this new center of peace. And that leads to the final stage, a complete victory over all the forces of chaos and evil.
But listen, this new future isn't just about rebuilding a city. The hope that the prophecy talks about becomes really personal. It zooms in from a restored place to a revolutionary person.
What the prophecy announces is the coming of a brand new kind of king. And this isn't going to be just another politician or another general. No, this ruler is presented as the ultimate agent of change, the one person who can actually guarantee this peace that seems totally impossible.
And this king is described with 2 really powerful, contrasting images. He's both a victorious warrior and a gentle shepherd. So he'll have the strength to defeat any enemy, for sure, but his ultimate goal isn't just conquest, it's to care for his people, to shepherd them, and lead them into a time of real, lasting peace.
Okay, so after all that, this grand, epic vision of judgment, destruction, restoration, and this coming king, the prophecy boils everything down to one essential, totally unforgettable message.
So after that whole journey, we're left with the big question, right? If all the religious rituals and all the ceremonies weren't enough, what does God actually want? What's the one thing that really, truly matters?
And the answer is just profoundly simple, but so powerful. The prophet reveals that the core expectation was never about going through the motions of religion. It's about something much more real. It's about living out justice, loving mercy, and walking humbly. In the end, it's all about how we treat each other every single day. And that leaves us with a question that's just as powerful today as it was back then, echoing right down through the centuries. It kind of forces us to look in the mirror and examine the connection, or maybe the disconnect,
between our own beliefs and our actual day-to-day actions in the world.
Thanks for joining us to break down this powerful prophecy.